Well, hello, hello. Welcome back to another Coffee and Craft chat. If you're new here, my name is Kim. This is the Coffee and Craft podcast. It's where I usually rock up and drink coffee. It's tea today, and I keep you company while you work or craft, and we chat about all things to do with running a handmade business. Okay, the first piece of advice that I would give to someone just getting started would be to pick a platform and make it your baby. Basically, you want to pick a platform that is more yours than theirs. And what I mean by that is, I would argue that Etsy is a platform that is very much theirs. You can definitely have a shop on there, but again, unpredictable. It could get shut down at any point. You could have your items shut down at any point. Even if they don't break any rules, it could be that somebody copies you and Etsy will immediately just take down your listing. The customer service is non-existent. I could go on. I often have, so I'd like a break from that today. There is an argument, and it's fair enough, that there is nowhere on the internet that is your land. You know, you've heard that phrase of you need to build something that is on your own land as opposed to building something on someone else's. That's the analogy given to places like Etsy. And there is an argument that says that there is nowhere on the internet that is your own land, and that is true. However, the problem with saying that is that, one, it's quite dismissive, and two, it's not completely accurate. Sorry, magpie flew past, had to salute. Because not all platforms are the same, and I would argue that a standalone website that you've built is more your land, not your land completely, but more so than somewhere like Etsy. Tell me I'm wrong. Don't bother. I'm not going to listen. I know I'm right on this. So I would personally advise someone, if anybody was asking me, to make their main selling platform something that isn't as stormy as something else. And I'd say a marketplace platform, somewhere else like that, social media, it can be taken away at any point. Your shop could be shut down. There's so many things that could change, and they change so fast, it's exhausting. Whereas if you have something that's a bit more stable, yes, things will happen that will change how you have to run your business. But those bumps in the road are much farther between than I found on platforms like Etsy. The next piece of advice I would give is, and those of you who are regulars here will have heard me say this before, but if you are going to research your competition, and you should, because that is a valid part of figuring out what you should sell for your customers and what have you, you don't want to be copying what they're doing. You don't want to be seeing what works for them and modelling it, or whatever the floofy language is that's been bandied around at the moment. The reason being is because the people that it's working for have done it first, and they are reaping the rewards from that. You are not going to reap the exact same rewards just because you come along and copy them. Also, it just creates an echo, and you are part of that echo. You are not at the front by copying or modelling or what have you. You're always behind, and your customers may realise that, even on an unconscious level, if not a conscious one. I've seen people and I've seen their work, and I've looked at it and thought that's good. It's also very influenced by insert creator here. And it's you know, I've not bought from them, because if I'm going to buy something like that, I will buy from the original creator. And the other thing, it just makes me lose a little bit of respect for them a little bit. It's just kind of like, okay, you haven't quite found your own feet, your own flow, your own confidence yet. And I know that there's this counter argument that's usually bandied around a lot, which is, well, people learnt how to draw, how to paint, how to sculpt in the olden times by copying, you know, existing artists and sculptors and what have you, and that is true. However, this is my comeback to that, because it's valid and I never hear anyone say this. They did that so that they could learn how to do it themselves. They didn't then take their finished item that they had copied and then try to sell it to people as if it were their own. Don't mention that bit, do they? No. It's one thing to copy people. For example, if we're talking about art and you're copying someone's art, it's it's one thing to do that so that you can learn how to do it yourself, so that you can learn the techniques and skills and then develop your own style and then make something brand new to sell. That's what was happening then. It's one thing to do that and quite another to go, oh, that's what works for them. I'm going to model it and I'm going to wrap it all up and present it as my own and charge a fee for it. And we shall move on. Actually, we won't, because I've written something else that I just need to say. It's all very well for me to say, stand out, don't copy other people. But I do just want to acknowledge that for some people, for artists particularly, this is very difficult to do right now. Because it doesn't matter if you do the same or something completely different that's never been done before. Copying is a thing. And I think for artists and I would say digital artists in particular right now, they are having a tough time. And AI art, I have to be careful because I did just try to film this video once before. I reached this part, I said the word AI art, in particular AI artist, and I just went off and had a rant, and I don't want this video to be a rant. So maybe that's a video for another day, Kim. Maybe not. Depends if I can rein in the anger. I just want to acknowledge that it is very difficult for a lot of people. I'm coming at this from the point of view of a handmade product seller because I make physical handmade products. Those, if you're new here, those things that you see hanging up, those are project bags, and the ones at the top there, hand painted and hand embroidered. A lot harder to replicate than a lot of things. You can't just take the picture off the internet and there you go, you have the product. You need a physical product to go with that picture. Whereas if you're an artist, someone can steal your picture and they can go to town on it, which is just... I have no solutions and my heart breaks for you guys, and I do think the world needs more art, more artists, more creativity, and it hurts that we live in a time when that has never been harder. And we'll move on to the next thing, which I'm hoping will just give you a little nugget of hope so that I just don't completely bring down the tone. I'm not here to depress you. I'm sorry if I'm doing that. But the next thing that I would strongly recommend to anyone starting a handmade business or an art business, you need to build a community or an audience or whatever word for it that you want to use. You do need to. You can't just slap your stuff on the internet now and expect sales to come in and expect not to get your stuff stolen. Unfortunately, the stolen thing, it seems to be something that we all have to deal with to some degree. But your community that you build around your business, that will be the heartbeat of it. And I think we're moving more into a time where this is going to become not just a nice to have, but it's like an essential part of any business, or especially handmade and creative businesses. If, like most of us are, we're making things that are kind of want items, people aren't just going to fall over our work and find us. We're going to have to light the fires, light the beacons, and really try and attract the people, because they're not going to be able to see us because the internet is so saturated. So we need to find a way to light the biggest beacon that we possibly can and say, if you're into hand embroidery and project bags and hand embroidered art, here, I am your person. And that's what a community does. It attracts rather than put you in a situation where you have to try and throw out the biggest net and pull as many people in, whether they want it or not, which seems to be a tactic that a lot of businesses use. I don't think that's a good fit for us handmade sellers. Another way of doing this is the good old email list. I talk about this frequently. It's an oldie, but it's still a good one. You don't have to chase the vanity metrics. You don't need all of the people. A small group of engaged people who are interested in your thing, that is enough. People will often say, can you do a video on it? It's not that complicated, guys. It really, really isn't. Essentially, you just need to build a sign-up page and then invite people to sign up. Another platform that could be useful if you want to start a community for artists and makers is something like, if you're on YouTube memberships or Patreon. Not only can these be an extra form of revenue if you need one, but it's just a great way of getting your community together in a way that you can go a bit more in depth and get to know each other a bit better. The one thing that I like about it is that it feels safer than this. Sometimes making a video and putting it on YouTube for everyone to see can feel very vulnerable, because you do unfortunately get some people in the comment sections who bit of a dick, let's be brutally honest. Some people who get in the comment sections really could use a high five in the face with a chair. But in a place like a community, you are attracting the right kind of people who know how to act. So your conversations can just be nicer, and you can just, it takes the pressure off, and they feel a lot better. And because you're attracting people who are more interested in your thing, you can really get into the weeds on certain topics as well. So it can be great. A lot of the time with YouTube, when I'm making these videos, I'm aware that not everybody is on the same page or in the same place. So sometimes you have to be a bit more broader with what you say. Whereas something like if you create a membership or a Patreon, for example, you can get, yeah, like I said, down in the weeds with it a little bit more, and get a little bit nerdy, and that's really nice. And it just helps to future-proof your business and makes it a bit more resilient to all of the knocks and changes that happen. And there have been so many knocks and changes that have happened over the last few years, haven't there? Oh my goodness. The next tip, it's a bit of a boring one, so I'll run through this quite quickly, but it's basically to get your financial house in order, your business financial house. This can look like doing things such as setting up a savings account so that you can squirrel away some money each and every single month. Even if you're not making much, sometimes it's the habit of saving that's more important than the amount, at least in the early days, especially if you don't think that you have much. £2, $2, whatever it is that you have, put something away. And then when you get more, you can put more across. But if you're building a business, you need to be doing this. Also, if you do get a one-off out of the blue bill, for example, you're cushioned. It makes the biggest difference. Even if you don't have a huge amount in there, a little bit can go a long way. So that would be a huge tip. Just squirrel away something, no matter how much it is, it's building up that saving habit. Make sure you're keeping track of your costs and your profit for your products. You can do this in something like a spreadsheet, a Google Doc, whatever suits you, even if it's just paper in a folder somewhere, but make sure that you know your numbers. Keep on top of your bookkeeping and your paperwork, says the woman who hasn't done her bookkeeping for the past 2 months and is starting to feel very eye-twitchy about it. And separate your personal and business expenses as much as you possibly can. I just cannot stress how much easier it makes things if you have a separate account or accounts for your business and personal, because when it comes to doing your bookkeeping and what have you, if you're having to constantly pull out your personal expenses from your business and you get behind with your bookkeeping, so it gets harder to figure out what's what, it's gonna be such a headache. But it actually can be so easy and so quick if you make things easier for you. And this is one of those boring admin tasks that a lot of people don't do. It will make your life so much easier. And then if you go on to get an accountant to help you do your taxes, they will tell you. And then the last tip I would add to this is never get your financial, legal, or medical advice from random people on the internet, myself included. The stuff that I've just told you is not tax advice. I don't touch those topics on here, and occasionally I get people asking me in the comments how I do things with regards to tax using my website, etc. I'm sorry, I'm not touching it, because I have got people from all countries watching this, and in some countries, for example, America, United States, you have states, and even the states do things differently, and I will be buggered if I'm going to say anything that could get someone into trouble and then have them shout at me for it. So nope, not touching that. Get your tax advice from a registered and qualified tax advisor, not from YouTubers. Okay, next one. Know who your customer is and create for them. This one tends to be quite controversial. Bearing in mind, again, that we are coming at this from a handmade business point of view, from people who want to make enough money from their art, from their work, so that they can pay the bills. Therefore, you are a business. I know, it's horrible. I hate it too, but we have to put our business hats on. And if you watched a recent video of mine, let the business person drive the car occasionally, because our inner artists are fantastic at what they do, the art, the work, but driving the business car, a year will drive it straight into a metaphorical hedge. So it's important that we don't just create for us, we also create for our customers. And sometimes I get pushback from people saying, I want to make the art that I want to make, I want to create the things I want to make. Absolutely. But if you're going to try and get people to buy stuff from you, then you do have to bear them in mind. They aren't just passive people going, okay, here's my money, I'll take. You have to actually make something that they will want. There are two people in a transaction. So if you're not making products that people want, you're not going to sell anything, which is fine if you just want to make art for art's sake, or you just want to make the art that you want to make because of that. But that's not a business, that's a hobby. There is nothing wrong with that, but it's important to know that the two are very different. So if you want to make consistent sales, you are at some point going to have to think, right, what do my customers want? And a lot of the time, what I want to make isn't what my customers want to buy. So I make a compromise. I make things that my customers want, and I make things that I want. And the things that I want will tend to be the longer, slower made stuff, and they tend to be the higher ticket items because a lot more of my time and energy and skill goes into them. Whereas the things that my customers often want are the lower ticket items, and very often supplies based. I offer them lower ticket supplies based stuff, and therefore we have a nice, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but whatever it is, it's nice. The sales come in enough that I can stay in business, and it brings people to my shop that can then build up that trust with me. They know that I'm not going to scam them. I mean, that's the bare minimum of trust, but they can see what I do and it stays in their mind, and they think, okay, when I want a gift, or maybe next time I'll get that or something. And I sell more of my bigger ticket, what I would call artier things, because I sell the lower ticket supplies based things. Do you see what I mean? I hope you see what I mean, because I don't have any words to put it any other way. Basically, you want to think about your customer and make the products that they would want. So customer first, products next, rather than making the products first and then trying to find the customer second. All right, the next thing that I've put down here is know what your goal is. Oof. I think that this is something that all of us can remind ourselves about, regardless of how long we've been in business for. Is your goal to make a certain amount a month just to help pay the bills? Is your goal just to make art or just to make products and sell them so that you can just keep on making art and products? Or is your goal to become a six-figure business? It's important to know what you want. No judgment, because none of those things, by the by, are wrong. Everybody's goal is going to be different, but it is important that you are very aware of what your particular goal is, because it's going to determine everything. The strategy that you use for your business, the products that you make, the prices that you charge, where you choose to sell your products, what kind of promotional content that you make. It starts with your goal, and very often we tend to jump in making the products, then find the customers. We don't think about our goal, and then we wonder why we don't grow or we don't go in any direction. It's because we don't know what direction to go in. So you need to know what your goal is so that you can see it over there, and at least you know that you're facing the right way, not the wrong one. You get my point. Okay, the next thing I've got here is prioritize your self-care, and that's not me being all woo. It's really important, and this is something that I'm living firsthand myself at the moment. Without you, there is no business. If you are the only person running your business, then if you fall over, so does your business. So it's not just self-indulgent, it's imperative that you prioritize your self-care. And this doesn't look like bubble baths and buying a bottle of wine and chocolate and all the rest of it. Those are nice, don't get me wrong. But for me, self-care looks a lot like parenting myself and making myself do the things that I don't actually want to do. But then if it were my family, I was going to say I make them do it, or I would certainly nag them to do it because I want them to be healthy and well and happy. It can be forcing yourself to put the screens down for a weekend and not working even though you kind of really want to. It can look like giving your kids to your parents, your partner, your friends, or booking them into a creche somewhere and just giving yourself some hours where you don't hear them, mum, mum. And it can look like saying no to things, or it could look like telling yourself that actually you don't have the time to do all of the things on your list, and being real about what you can let go and then letting them go. Sometimes that can be the kindest thing that you can do for yourself, because one thing that I have noticed about running your own business, your own handmade business, is that you will, as I've said earlier, you will work more than you've probably ever worked in your life. You might even find that you are the worst boss you've ever had. Sometimes self-care looks like parenting yourself. Just saying. And lastly, because I am aware that this has been a very waffly video, but there's been a lot to say, embrace mistakes. Because when you're getting started, and in fact, actually, no, not just when you're getting started, all of you listening to this, we need to embrace mistakes, and we need to let go of this idea that we know everything, because we bloody don't. I've been selling on Etsy, for example, since 2007. Yes, that's a long time. Now, I could start every video like, I've been an Etsy seller since 2007, but I don't, because it doesn't mean anything. It means that I have a lot of experience dealing with their nonsense, true, but considering what works now on Etsy, I'm not sure that anything works on Etsy, but let's just pretend that something does. What works on Etsy now is completely different to what worked on Etsy in the beginning, or even 5 years ago. So you can see how that doesn't really help. The only way that I can keep on selling on Etsy is because I keep on evolving and I keep on learning. And that's the same with everybody else. You have to keep on evolving, keep on learning. And a part of that is going to be making mistakes, because believe it or not, making mistakes is the best way to learn. I see a lot of people who seem to be so afraid to admit that they've made a mistake, or they just want to pretend that they know everything. And it's like, it's okay to say I don't know, because no one on this earth does. Anyone who pretends to is BSing both you and themselves. I think this is more of a life lesson than anything else, but just like, you have to embrace change. You have to embrace mistakes. They're not a bad thing. They're a sign of learning, unless you have to make the same mistake again and again and again. But eventually you'll learn. Otherwise you just become stagnant, and there's nothing more boring than that. So yeah. Use a new medium, try a different technique, push yourself out of your comfort zone. Just a little bit. Let yourself make really, really bad art that nobody will ever see. Okay, if you're still here, well done. I don't know how long this video is going to be by the time I finished editing it, but it's turning into a bit of a beast. But if you're still here, did I miss anything? If I have, put it in the comments, because I know that a lot of people will spend as much time in the comment section as they do actually listening to the video. I do that a lot. Sometimes I have to pause videos so I can read the comments, because I can't listen and read at the same time. Too much. Yeah, if you have any advice for anybody else who would be just starting their handmade business or their art business, let them know in the comments, and we'll keep the conversation going. All right, I'll shut up now. I need to. I need more caffeine. I'll see you next week for another Coffee and Craft episode. Ta-ra!